I'd like to call to order the County Commission meeting for January 21st. Commissioner Simpkins, you would lead us in prayer?
Yes, I will. Let us pray. Lord, thank you for giving us this great day. Be with us tonight as we make the wise decisions for the people of this great county. Be with our soldiers who are away on foreign soils, that you allow them to return back home safely. Be with us tonight as we travel back home to be with our loved ones. I ask this in your name, Lord. Amen.
Amen. Everyone stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, call the roll, please.
Yes, sir. Mr. Simpkins.
Here.
Mr. Ledger.
Here.
Mr. McElwain.
Here.
Mr. Beatty.
Here.
Mr. Dawson. Ms. Spicer.
Here.
Mr. Buckner.
Here.
Mr. Britt.
Here.
Mr. Petty.
Here.
Mr. Williams.
Here.
Mr. Grove.
Here.
Ms. Gray.
Do have a quorum. Commissioner Dawson, he's a little under the weather, so let's all keep and remember him here over the next week or so. First item of business is the approval of the minutes of the December 16th, 2024 session. Motion by Commissioner Petty, second by Commissioner McElwain. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, vote by stating aye. Opposed? Thank you. Item number 2 is public comments. We have a public hearing tonight, and I think we've have this list kind of blended together. So what we're going to do is we're going to take those public comments and move it down and leave room for the take the public hearing, which I think is here all to speak on the rezoning on Hummingbird, it appears from this list. So we'll hold on to regular public comments. The next item of business is appointments. The first is Planning Commission. This is to reappoint Mr. Jeff Chase, Mr. Gary Peeler, and a new appointment to Mr. Randy Ramey. Open the floor for a motion. Motion by Commissioner Buckner, second by Commissioner Spicer. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, vote by stating aye. Opposed? Thank you. Item number 2, Water Authority, Dickson County. This is a reappointment. Ms. Paula Elazar, her 4-year term is completed, and I'd like to reappoint her again for another 4 years. Open floor for motion. Motion by Commissioner Spicer, second by Commissioner Ledger. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, vote by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Committee reports. Any committees report? The most important committee is the Audit Committee. Mr. Hall's not with us tonight. I believe you received in your email the county audit for fiscal year 24. It was a perfect audit. Dickson County's never had one. The sports comparison is it's like baseball pitching a perfect game. That means every dollar and penny was in place. No policies were violated. That speaks well to the elected officials, the directors, and most importantly, the employees that do this work every day. So I wish you would give them a hand on that.
I think the county mayor also.
Well, that's sweet of you to say, but I just hang out with smart people. I'm not one of them. First, 2 items of business are public hearing, though. The first one is a rezoning request for Noah Gillerman, tax map 101, parcel 16.02, 1.67 acres, 3066 Highway 70 East Burns, Tennessee, C2 General Commercial to C1 Rural Center, 10th District. Mr. Darnell.
Mr. Gillerman would like to rezone this property to build a self-storage facility. It's located there on Highway 70, directly across from Catfish Kitchen and Cajun Lake Lodge. This rezoning request was approved by the Planning Commission at the November 14th, 2024 meeting by a vote of 8-0 with 1 abstention. And that was Christy Sullivan, because at one time she was the owner of that property.
Thank you. Is there anyone here for public comments on that item? On that item and that item alone? Let the records show that there was no one here on that. Thank you, Mr. Darnell. Mr. Darnell, on this second item, you received a letter earlier or later this afternoon. Would you read that? And we were going to ask for commission action on the next public hearing.
Okay, that was directed to me. It said, "Dear David Darnell, I am requesting to postpone the review and vote on the zoning change for the Hummingbird property. I have health concerns with a heart condition. The doctor has ordered me to no undue stress for a while. I would like to reschedule for the March 2025 meeting. Any cost incurred by the county for this need to reschedule, I would be willing to pay. Thank you." And that's signed, John Duke.
This is a scheduled public hearing. It'll be the will of this commission to either go forward with this or honor Mr. Duke's request. We'll open the floor for discussion.
I believe all these people are here tonight for a reason. I don't think we should put them off another month, so we at least hear what they've got to say, so they wouldn't have to come back.
There's a motion by Commissioner Grove, who made the second by Commissioner Ledger. All in favor, vote by stating aye. Opposed? Thank you. Item number 2, rezoning request for John Duke, tax map 93, part of parcel 48.02, 19.36 acres, North Hummingbird Lane, Dickson, Tennessee, A1 agriculture to M1 heavy industrial, 10th district. Mr. Darnell.
Okay, Mr. Duke would like to rezone this piece of property between Jones Creek and Hummingbird Lane for a future site of a cement plant. As most of you know, it borders both the rock quarry across the road and Eubank's property right next to it. Both of these properties are already zoned M1 heavy industrial. This zoning request was approved by the Planning Commission at the December 12th, 2024 meeting by a vote of 9-0.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Darnell. Just give me 1 second. I'm doing some math. All right. I have names here. I'm going to call them in order where it come up on public hearing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 9 names on this. With that amount, we'll allow 3 minutes for each. I am the timekeeper on that, so when I signal, it's time to quit speaking. So don't put me on the spot to whack this croquet mallet on you. So the first name I have on here is Tanya Larkins Bowen. Please come and address.
I'll talk real fast. Good evening, everyone. As he stated, my name is, can you hear me? Tanya Larkins Bowen. I live at 973 Jones Creek Road on the Larkins family farm. Tell you a little bit about myself. Our farm has been there for 93 years. We currently have 4 generations living on the property with 3 of them that have built homes. We have 8 homes. Most of this front row will represent our family. We have other children that want to build. I have my son and his fiance that are next on the list to build. I have my nephew and his girlfriend down on the bottom that are next to build. This is personal for us. This is not, we don't want to live in an industrial center. This is our home. This is where I was raised. This is where my grandparents were raised. My father, Elton Larkins, was a soil conservationist. He also was a founding member of the Farm Bureau. He also was a founding member of the Dickson Co-op. My brother, Trooper Todd Michael Larkins, was killed in the line of duty, and he served this county. What we want for our home and the way we live should be considered. I've heard the gentleman before me talk about the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission took 3 minutes to decide to vote in favor of this, from 5.56 minutes to 7.41. That's how long they took. The gentleman that got up and spoke said, this is not unusual for this area. You already have 2 zones there with the rock quarry and with Eubank paving. The rock quarry has been there. In my mind, those 2 are grandfathered in. The gentleman who did the rock quarry owned the property. Laws have changed. If you allow this, you will never legally be able to turn away another corporate citizen. We do not wish to live with that traffic on Jones Creek or Hummingbird. The roads weren't meant for that. We have families that walk. We have bicyclers. We have wildlife. We are not looking to live in an industrial complex, and you will not be able to stop it. When I was doing this research, one of the things that I saw was that Dickson County had just received a $20,000 endowment from the state for the brownfield redevelopment. I was like, what is brownfield? Brownfield are sites who have maybe have contamination or have different zoning, maybe like heavy industrial. And they're giving us, we have a $20,000 grant. Why not? If you need to bring another industry in to help Dickson County on tax, go revitalize one of those areas and put them there. They don't belong out in the middle of our farms. They don't belong there. I've talked to a couple of commissioners and they said, well, with Eubank there and with the quarry, that makes that's what we have out there. Well, we have agriculture out there.
Sorry, Ms. Bowen. Thank
That's
you for
okay.
your time.
Thank you.
Next name I have on here to speak is Mr. Eddie Cochran.
Thank you. My name's Eddie Cochran. I live adjoining with the Larkins. We're a little more prolific. In 60 years, we've hit the fourth generation on our farm. So we're going a little faster than them. Just like Mrs. Bowen said, this is a lot personal, but I know y'all hear that all the time. I want you to consider, I feel like this particular piece of property is the last buffer we've got protecting us from the lights and the noise and the dust that's generated from the existing agriculture. It blocks, and I've got pictures I should have handed out. I walk out my backyard tonight and I see a small city with Mr. Eubanks's, and I'm only seeing about a third of what he's got. If this lot gets cleared, I'm just open to, I might as well be downtown Dickson. That's a personal problem, excuse me. We've got 2 concrete plants in Dickson County. We've got 2 existing quarries in Dickson County. They're providing all the material. The quarries haven't run out of rock yet. The concrete plants have produced to their full capacity. They've run out of fly ash and cement mix. So I don't see that the county benefits from an additional concrete plant. It's only going to steal business from the 2 existing profitable ones we've got. My biggest concern is just like our hands was tied with the fuel depot. If you make this M1, I understand the intention is probably a concrete plant. We don't know. If it doesn't pan out to be a concrete plant, down the road, somebody decides we're going to quarry rock. My understanding from talking to the codes director, they're one special use exception away from quarrying rock off of that. And nobody wants to see that quarried. I'm a suspicious type sometimes. The rock quarry that's there now has already come against this property and renewed quarrying rock in that corner, an abandoned corner that they have not quarried rock out of for decades. They cleared that off. They're pulling that rock out. We're just less than 100 yards away from this property across the street. I suspect they're going after the hard rock that's, my understanding, runs in that vein that way. I'm not calling anybody, not saying anybody's misrepresenting, but I think it's questionable. And I just don't want another fuel depot. If we zone it, we're turned loose. Our hands are tied.
Thank you, Mr. Cochran.
Thank you.
Next name I have is John Stridicus.
All right, good evening, John Stridicus, Woodside. I've only been around for 20 years, so good job, guys. So following what Eddie said, Hummingbird is also a very dangerous road in the fact that there's a lot of steep elevations to it, curves. If we do have another concrete company come into Dickson, I did a little research to see if we should convert this property. One of the things about Hummingbird being dangerous was I tried to get a sidewalk through the Dickson city, and I found a story of a neighbor of mine whose son was actually hit on Hummingbird by a car. So thankfully he was not hit by a concrete truck, but this mother said that her son has been disabled ever since. So I went to the Tennessee Department of Environmental and Conservation data viewer results. You can kind of look up every business that is a company. I looked up Eubanks, 0 violations. Nashville Ready Mix, only 3 violations over the last 2 decades. Vulcan, 7 violations. Smyrna Ready Mix had 17 violations. Of the top 3, they just had one posted here in January 2025. And that violation was where in Cookville in April 24, 2022, and 2023, they exceeded their concrete limit over 20,000 cubic yards. They went up close to 40,000 cubic yards 2 years in a row. That increases air pollution. We don't want that on our land. Spring Hill, they were operating without a permit. And in Morrison, Tennessee, they were operating and constructing their batch plant prior to getting permission or the permits properly. I've got plenty of pictures where SRM concrete trucks are in buildings. A concrete driver in Kentucky just died 2 years ago hitting a concrete post, shutting down the interstate. And if you Google Smyrna Ready Mix, Morgan & Morgan, you'll see the $31 million lawsuit, a single mom that was T-boned by a concrete truck. And what is happening, Smyrna Ready Mix, even though they sound like they're down I-24, they have 22 states that they are in now easily. And so they are growing, and they have growing pains. They're growing so fast, which is hard to hire good quality help. They've faced off with Metro Nashville for 18 months. They bought a concrete plant on the Cumberland River, and they basically sent their attorneys in and said, hey, we're going to go ahead and run this concrete plant. Even though the headline on the newspaper says not allowed at 2 minutes, 37 seconds. They have done some good things they have donated $3 million to MTSU. And oh, by the way, they're in Texas right now, Smyrna Ready Mix is, and they have just acquired over 100 properties of Vulcan in Texas. At 2:53. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Fritz. Next name I hear is I want to make sure I pronounce it, Jeff Hunziker. Thank you, Mr. Hunziker. You have a small I in here. I wasn't sure if I pronounced it or not.
So my name is Jeff Hunziker. I live at 1010 Douglas Court. It's there on the corner of Hummingbird and Harmon Springs. My biggest concerns are that the industry that's currently in the area, they're not doing business responsibly. If you drive down that road, we approved that lot to be totally paved to move the Eubank facility from Charlotte down there. If you look on the hillside there next to that road, the water is just gushing off of that hill. It floods that road. It's totally washed out that road. There's a big hole there. They need to be held accountable to fix that. If you drive past the Vulcan plant, it's always dusty. If it's dry, it's dusty. It probably exceeds the OSHA reservoir silica levels. So it's not clean. If you drive through there when it's wet, it gets your vehicle covered in, all kinds of cement-like mud, sticks to your vehicle. That being said, I don't think that any additional heavy industry in that area will be held accountable. So we don't need any more there. In addition, I've been there for 10 years. In those 10 years, I've seen 50 houses between Reap Road and Hummingbird added along Harmon Springs and in that development. That's a place where people live, not where people do heavy industry. Okay, so this is our homes. This is where we live. We don't need industry. The county already has an industrial park down there by Daltile and down there by NEMAC. Like, that's the industrial zone. Keep that the industrial zone. Keep this farms and homes where people live. That's what I got.
Thank you. Next name I have is Emily McCartney.
Hi, Commissioners. Thank you so much for your time. I reached out to several of you today, and I really appreciate y'all answering my questions. Those of you that I spoke to, I really appreciate that. Whether we agree or disagree, it's really important for us to understand where you're coming from, the positions you hold, that you really take into account the community. I live off of Beasley Drive, so I'm in the Crutcher Heights subdivision. So I see development of a whole different different kinds. I'm looking at my third major apartment complex in an area where my daughter and I used to watch deer, and there's a valley and, a forest right there. So they're about to pop up their third one. So this is not my neighborhood. I just really implore you. I do a lot of community work. And so I've heard from the residents, especially of that Hummingbird neighborhood, but not just that one, Douglas Court and Kimberly Street over there. So a lot of them moved over there because it's such a beautiful neighborhood. There's a lot of wildlife. There's a lot of just really beautiful property over there. I understand the temptation that, okay, there's already industrialized area, but I think that shouldn't be just an automatic yes to that. So I really just ask for you to take into account what the community says, especially the residents that live right there. Several of them complain about, strong chemical smells or seeing residues on their cars that they're worried about. Is chemical residue from either I can't tell you which, right? Either the quarry or the other plant that's right there. But really just take into perspective the added traffic, what it will do to the environment. And if we don't know, hey, what it's going to add to the community and how the community will benefit, that you really err on the side of caution. Because once we get to a certain point, we can't go back, right? So I appreciate your time and thank you so much.
Thank you. The next name I have is Carrie Joyce. Thank you. Next name I have then is Ellen Yancey.
Mayor Ryle and council members, thanks for giving us this time. I live at 1390 Jones Creek Road. My husband and I are fairly newcomers to Dickson. We moved here in 1997. I wanted to talk about the development at that corner. We already have quite a bit of traffic going on Hummingbird. We can get to Dickson coming through Jones Creek, Pump Hill, or Hummingbird are the easiest ways. My car stays dusty because of the Vulcan plant. They're pretty good about getting out and watering it down, except this kind of weather, not so much. We have a lot of truck traffic during the day. Every Tuesday at 10:30 in the morning, there's a blast. Occasionally there's one at a different time and we're all kind of surprised, but we're accustomed to it. I've only had to replace 2 glass frames and artwork so far. And I'm just concerned about adding more congestion, large trucks, traffic in that. I had to replace an oil pan from a truck that didn't comply with covering up from the rock quarry, and I hit a rock that we had dropped on the road. So there have been things like that. And I just don't think in a residential country agricultural neighborhood, that's the appropriate thing to have. We do have concrete plants if that's what's coming in. I think the industrial area by Print Shop and Tensco and out to that area is already zoned and used as industrial. I believe there's properties that aren't even being used there currently. The other thing I notice, and I'm not adverse to progress, but I'm in fact, my house is part of the old Cecil Duke, the Duke Farms. And the property behind me has been sold, and I believe they're going to develop some houses there. There are houses not very far from me on Rock Church, where some property is sold. And there are other places that are being plotted. So more houses are in that area. We need housing everywhere. That doesn't really bother me. I have enough property and trees to stay isolated so far. But I think having more heavy traffic, big trucks, congestion is not really what we need in that area. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Yancey. Next name I have is Stefan Gurl Riash.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing us to speak this evening to you in this important event. And I'm kind of having deja vu because we did this a few years ago. This area was trying to be rezoned the exact area was trying to be rezoned and the community came, but not this many people came. We have at least, I would say 3 or 4 times as many people coming this evening and saying, please don't do this. Please don't allow them to rezone this area. And a lot of good points were made. I'm not going to reiterate all of them, but I am one of the closest homes to that area. I'm one of the closest to the Jones Creek Hummingbird. I live at 1330 North Hummingbird, right across from Mr. Duke. And I'm asking you, I have 3 children. We play out in the yard, and yes, I have to get a subscription to get my car washed every week because of the dust that's just coming down out of the sky. So I don't know, it scares me. Like the gentleman said, right now there's a bit of a buffer, and we kind of put up with we understood when we moved to the area. I moved to that home in 2014. There's a quarry, there's Eubanks and things, and even when they expanded, that was their land, and we understood that. The fire department went in. We were very thankful to have that for safety in our area. We're very thankful for that. But rezoning that area, I would be staring out of my bedroom window on that concrete plant. And I'm just asking you and pleading you to consider our voices tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Last name here is Cody Katz.
Good evening. My name is Cody Katz. I live at 1006 Douglas Court, just a little bit past Hummingbird and Jones Creek. I drive by that lot at least 2 times a day, once early in the morning, once late at night. I work construction and have been a part of many concrete pours in the middle of the night. Just because everybody else is asleep doesn't mean that concrete quarries or concrete plants stop. They run around the clock, and that kind of noise is real disruptive to, the entire area. Our neighborhood's a gem in all of Dickson County. I can't tell you how many people I've talked to, how many friends that have found out where we live or come over, and they love our neighborhood. They love our area. It's close to the town, but it still seems pretty tucked back in. There's a lot of truck traffic with Eubank and with the quarry already there. It's a 2-lane on Hummingbird. It's a 2-lane on Jones Creek. So it gets pretty small pretty quick. My wife takes our 2 kids to school every morning, picks them up every afternoon. Just thinking about her on the road with dump trucks alone, those guys been running around the clock, tired. It's small lanes. It's not very safe. Just concrete in itself, you work in construction, they have a big emphasis on safety and breathing in silica dust, which is a big concern with concrete. So just having an actual concrete plant in the area, no telling what that'll do to the environment. Cars getting dirty, that's, it's part of it, but lasting health concerns and safety on the road is more of an issue to me. It's more apparent. I don't think that having another industrial part on Hummingbird is really going to benefit any of us. No telling how many homes are between Jones Creek and Hummingbird to Harmon Springs, that whole area. It's a lot of traffic, and having to deal with some more heavy industrial traffic is not going to be beneficial to any of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cat. That's the end of the names signed up. Mr. Darnell, was there anyone here? I know Mr. Duke was not here. Was anyone here that wanted to speak in favor of it?
Not tonight.
All right, thank you. Thank you. That portion of the public hearing is now closed. Next item, business resolution, budget amendment, all school funds. Dr. Sutherland's here tonight, but what I think we have here, we had a discussion on this 2 weeks ago. Dealing with Dr. Weeks for 11 years. Dr. Sutherland and I speak the same language, but we're learning a little more. But with the transition with Ms. Underhill and Dr. Sutherland, I didn't understand what they were saying 2 weeks ago, but they were very gracious to come over and visit myself and Mr. Hall. They were just good because they were way ahead of what we normally do. But what they asked us to do tonight, this was never carried through through the school board. I believe they meet Dr. Sutherland. They'll meet tomorrow night. So for this to show up properly again, without objection, I'd like to move this until a month from today, which would be on, our next regular meeting is on apparently February 18th. So if there are no objection, that item will be moved to that date. Next item is the 2025 road list, a resolution accepting the 2025 Dickson County Road Report that was given to you by our Administrative Officer Highway, Mr. Jackie Hodges. Any questions on that from Mr. Hodges? I'll open the floor for a motion. Motion by Commissioner Petty, second by Commissioner Gray. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, vote by stating aye. Opposed? Thank you. Next item number 3 is Cadmus. This was brought to you by the Dickson County Sheriff Tim Eads. It's a resolution to enter into a software licensing service agreement on behalf of Dickson County Sheriff's Office. This is a budget item because this is over a year long, the contract, it requires your approval. I'll open the floor for a motion. Motion by Commissioner Brett, second by Commissioner Spicer. Any questions or discussion? Sheriff Eads, any questions for him? Hearing none. All in favor, vote by stating aye. All opposed? Thank you. Item number 4 is resolution to set speed limit on public road known as Sutherland Road. This was reviewed by Sheriff and also was reviewed by Highway. Commissioner Williams, this is your area. Would you like to make the recommendation?
Nothing's changed. You're still 40 miles an hour. That's your recommendation? So make
Motion by you.
40, yep.
Open the floor for a second. Second by Commissioner McElwain. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, vote by stating aye. Opposed? Thank you. Got a good crowd and audience, so we're going to have some educational part here. Every time a politician gets a crowd, we're going to talk about some things. One of them, the first one is the speed limits in Dickson County are 45 miles an hour unless otherwise posted because of the 2 reasons, because of growth and because, frankly, the great condition of the road that Mr. Hodges and his staff's done. Those natural speed bumps that we refer to as potholes are disappearing. So we are slowly and surely moving speed limits down to where they're more safe. The sheriff and the highway, they are very analytical about to do it. We don't react emotionally to changing speed limits, so they do a great job with that. But I tell you, if you're in your neighborhood, the non-state highways, non-city streets, if you have recommendations, your county commissioners are here and they'll be here late and want to talk to you. So if you want people in your neighborhood to slow down, do it. But Sheriff Eads will give you a ticket, even if you ask to slow down and you're the speeder, they'll make sure you get the ticket too. So just wanted to talk to you about that. And I'll have one other thing a little bit later. Next item of business is a rezoning request for Noah Gellerman, tax map 101, parcel 16.02, 1.67 acres, 3066 Highway 70 East Burns, C2 General Commercial to C1 Rural Center District, 10th District. That was presented to you in the public hearing before and by Mr. Darnell. Any questions? Yes, Commissioner Williams.
Mr. Darnell, could I ask you a question, if you don't mind? Would you come up? I just... So I've not had any phone calls on this rezoning, but I noticed we didn't get a traffic study. Is that because it was zoned down from C1
Yes,
to
it's actually a
C2?
downward zone from C2 to C1.
Okay.
Yes.
And so I guess when they come back, if this is approved, they would come to Planning Commission with a site plan.
Correct. Yes.
Could I ask something be reviewed? So at the current storage building there, I think it's right there at the corner of like Buddy Road.
Yes.
BC, yeah. So the problem that we're having now is that they've got a gate with a code set up at like 20 feet off that white line. And so most of the vehicles that are pulling in are either U-Hauls or trailers. And so what's happening is these people are pulling in and half the U-Haul is sticking out in the lane and the trailer. So if they submit that site plan, could we look for the gate and the code and all that be pushed that the traffic can get off?
Right away.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a reminder, what you're looking at tonight is this is not a vote to pass. This is a vote to move it to the February 18th for final action on that.
Make a motion to move.
Make a motion by Commissioner Williams. To have a second by Commissioner Grove. Any other questions or discussion? Any questions for Mr. Darnell? Hearing none, all in favor, vote by stating aye. Opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Darnell. Next is rezoning request for John Duke, tax map 93, part of parcel 48.02, 19.36 acres, North Hummingbird Lane, Dickson, Tennessee, A1 agriculture to M1 heavy industrial, 10th district. Open the floor for discussion.
Guys, another question.
Absolutely. Mr. Darnell, you might just want to hang out tonight.
So, I mean, of course, everybody knows that, we've had a lot of response to this.
Yes.
And I've told most everybody here, I ain't been able to work last week with the phone calls and the emails trying to reply and speak to everyone. But there was a couple of questions that did come up that I would just like to have answered so people would know. So currently, I did see the traffic study that was presented, which wasn't a whole lot, wasn't very detailed, but they did have a recommendation in there for a turn lane. So that would, if this was approved, that's something the planning commission.
Yes, when the site plan comes back, that will be something that will be addressed at that time. Yes.
Was it in your opinion that their main access would be Hummingbird then,
Yes.
no other road?
Yes.
So, and I know you and Mr. Hodges both, I haven't dealt with the sheriff on this, but this past year, there was a couple of big jobs out of the rock quarry. One was for the TVA and one was for the gas pipeline. And so what we had was a lot of out of town drivers that were hauling, and they were coming down Hummingbird, down Harmon Springs, coming down Fairview to Sutherland. And so we've had a lot of problems with that truck traffic not going down. And so if that's the case, then who would enforce that? If this was approved and the trucks start using all these other roads instead of using work, who would enforce that?
I don't know if they could even.
No. So the issue you run into with roads is there is a way to restrict certain weights on certain roads, but you have to determine that through an engineer to determine what the road bed will sustain. And then if you set a limit, the only way to enforce it is for us to purchase scales and have the ability to weigh and cite people who are driving on the road over the weight limit that has been set.
Sure.
So, and also in all the, the questioning and the calls. So I think some of the concern of the residents, I mean, there's a lot, but I think the main two was the using the other roads, but also the night. A lot of times in the summer, the concrete plants, they open up early and they make big pours before it gets daylight in the summertime. And so it's a high possibility this plant would be running at like 2-3 o'clock in the morning. And so is there any restrictions that you would be able to enforce the hours that they could operate?
I don't know if legally, probably not. No,
I don't have one.
All righty. Thank you.
Mayor, can I go ahead and make a motion, then put it to discussion?
Yes, Commissioner Grove, what's your motion?
I'd like to go ahead and make a motion for a roll call vote for either yes is for the rezoning or no against the rezoning.
Well, I need a motion either indicating which direction you want to go. Do you want to make a motion approving it or you'll make a motion denying it?
I want to make a motion denying it.
That's a motion by Commissioner Grove denied. Do I have a second? Holler out. Who was first one? Commissioner Ledger, second. Discussion.
I guess
So after talking to several people and everything, their main concern being the aftermath of the property changing is just basically going down North Hummingbird. And if anybody that drives down North Hummingbird knows there's no shoulders, no nothing. I understand the traffic study shows that it can hold additional trucks, but there's a lot of residentials down that road. So for that reason, I don't think it needs to go there unless we can make a better road system to get to it.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Mayor.
Yes.
This is not an easy subject because I've talked to you and I've talked to other people. The area around it is heavy industry, and we set a standard with whatever we're going to zone. We're going to keep it zoning. I guess my swaying factor is I do represent the city of Dickson mainly, and Mayor Wise calls me yesterday in his opposition for it. And as a mayor myself, I understand that he has his pulse on that community and what he needs for his needs. So he's strongly against it. He asked me to convey that he's strongly against it. I represent Mayor Wise in that area. So I understand both sides of the argument though.
Thank you. Excuse me. Any other comments or question? Yes, Commissioner Gray.
I just want to reiterate that the rock quarry had been there since before we had a zoning ordinance, isn't that right?
Correct. Yes.
So that was grandfathered in. I can't remember who wanted that.
It was started in approximately 1952.
Right. And over the time and the years have gone by, we know how much population growth has happened. And this area is a very beautiful rural area. And we have more residential people there now than we had back then. And even though this is an M1 area, I just do not feel like at this time that it's the best growth plan with all the residential area moving in there. I just don't see M1 being favorable there. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes.
Got one, and Miss Cindy spoke about it then, about the growth plan in the county. I know each town, cities all have that. That area is not in the growth plan for that type operation, is it?
Well, it is in the growth plan of the city of Dickson.
Is it for development of homes or what type planning, do you know?
It would be technically both.
To be the will of this commission. Any other questions? I want to remind you at this point, the motion, the second was to deny. So it takes an affirmative vote to deny. So don't just always like to remind everybody, yes means deny, no means not to deny. Any other questions? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
No, or yes is to deny, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Ledger,
Yes.
Mr. McElwain, Mr. Beatty,
No.
Mr. Dawson. Oh, he's not here. I'm sorry. Miss Spicer,
Yes.
Mr. Buckner,
Yes.
Mr. Britt,
Yes.
Mr. Petty,
No.
Mr. Williams, Mr. Grove, Miss Gray. 8 yeses, 3 noes. And we
Motion fails to go forward. Thank you. Before everybody gets off here, another educational point. I appreciate everybody coming out. I see a lot of friends out here. Got a few emails from you too today. We went fast in the early part of the meeting. It's because we met 2 weeks ago when we go over like some of these deals. We have a work session on the first Monday, and then we have this is our regular session. So I always like to remind folks when you show up sometime, it seems like we went fast, or we spent more time with some of these appointments and these budget amendments last time. So another educational purpose. The other deal is too, again, I've got a lot of friends here and I've heard from several of you and I appreciate it. So I don't think I'm preaching to most of you, any of you, but we did receive an email today and quite a number of those. I get it. We get these periodically, from anything. We mentioned that some of them are so weird, but this was substantial. The issue on this email, it's got a lot of histrionics in it. It's a campaign piece. Don't mind getting them, but I want to read it in here because there's some indication in this last paragraph, and there are several lines in here, and I just want to point out, but the Planning Commission approved this without input for the residents, prioritizing industrial corporate interests over well-being. That calls out my planning and zoning staff, and it calls out the 12 members that serve the Planning Commission. You're welcome to have that opinion, but I have my opinion too. The 12 people that are on that board take it seriously. They do it for $80 a month. They're getting rich. We have to beg people to be on it. So they are following the law and the procedures go. There is no anything behind the back. The exact procedure we're to follow is public notice, a planning commission meeting, hearing at planning commission, this hearing tonight. We are following the law. And I want to congratulate the planning commission on doing that. So just when you read these things, remember, some of these call people's character into question, and you're welcome to do that. But just remember, there's more behind this. There's 12 well-meaning people that show up here. I always tell the story of referee basketball. Two things happen when you're refereeing basketball. You're enforcing rules and you're exercising your judgment. The rules are without question. The state legislature sets these up. This commission's aware of them. Our attorney makes sure we follow them. So the rules have been followed. We've done this exactly right. So it doesn't have a comparison to anything else that's happened here before, be right or wrong. So I just want to point that out. Again, I welcome you to always show up to meeting. I welcome to hear from you. But if the author of this is here, I'll be glad to have that conversation here, because I have a lot of folks that hit yes or friends of mine, but read it in detail, because, you know, I like things on Facebook before I read them sometime or hit something. But I want to point that out, because there's a lot of folks that take this very serious, including this board, including the planning zoning people. And I just want to make sure that's on the record. I saved that for after this vote, because I didn't want to say anything to try to influence a vote on that. If we had voted, I'd have brought this up in 30 days on that deal. I'll be here to talk to any of you who want to talk about this after the meeting. I ought to go to bed about 10:30, so I'm good. I'm good up to about 10 o'clock. I'm going to walk off and leave you then. The next item of business is approval of notaries. Madam Clerk.
Michelle Alexander, Madeline Bagsby, Leah Belitsky, Lisa Harris, Josephine Clark, Kristen Fielder, James W. Nolan, Linda Props, Kendall Region, Kyle Schreiber, Brandon Springer.
Motion by Commissioner Simpkins, second by Commissioner Britt. All in favor, vote by stating aye. Opposed? Thank you. We had an unfortunate incident last week where two of us forgot to self-report our birthdays, and we had you sing to us. It was horrible. I'm never going to have that happen again. So I want to make sure you know about mine. But Commissioner Spicer, do you want to tell us anything before?
Yesterday.
No, we got him.
Yet.
What? I don't think we meet again until after. So do you want us
Forgot.
to say?
Yeah. I got
Okay.
one I got one coming.
Happy birthday on February 4th.
Thank you.
Is there any other announcements?
Okay.
Hearing none, the final announcement will be the next regular session meeting will be on Tuesday, February 18th, 2025 at 7 p.m. in the Buford L. Booty Reed Jr. County Commission Chamber of the Dickson County Administration Building, 4 Court Square, Charlotte, Tennessee.